Hello everyone, welcome to the new session that is loops in Go. So more specifically, the only for loop in Go. So in this session, we'll be talking about different ways we can use for loop in Go and different syntaxes for the for loop in Go. Now let's talk about the for loop. So Golang contains only a single loop, that is a for loop. A for loop is nothing but a repetition control structure based on certain conditions or without them. In Go language, this is for the loop that can be used in the different forms. And let me explain you the forms one by one. So the very first form is simple for loop, right? Let me write down the syntax for the simple for loop. Okay, let me remove it. The syntax is for as a keyword, then initialization. This is basically an optional thing. We can do that, and we can do the without initialization here. We can do the initialization at other end as well. Now the condition is an Boolean expression. It should always evaluates to a Boolean, either true or a false. Then the post statement. Now this post is an statement that will be executed post the statement of the for. Now here we will have statement or anything that we want to write as a logic. Now, initialization is the very first thing. This is an optional thing. Condition is a condition that will always return a Boolean expression that is true. Post, this statement will be executed after the statement is executed. Now, let me give you, and this is the very first way or the very first syntax of the for loop in Go. Now, let me write a very small program satisfying this syntax of the for loop. So in this program, what I will do is I will print, this is my first for loop in Go 4 times. Now let me start with the for loop inside the main function. Now I'll start with for, I'll do the initialization. I'll start with this. Now a Boolean expression I is less than 5. Then the post statement, it will say I plus plus. Now inside the for loop, I'll say fmt.println, and this is my first simple for loop. And after that, I will say /n just for the, or I'll say instead of println, I will say printf. So this will take /n as the next line. If I'll use printf, now this completes my very first for loop. Now how this for loop will execute is, it will say for, okay, it is a loop. Now Golang will check for this condition. It will initialize the I as a 0, the value of I as 0 only for the very first time. After that, this will not execute. It says, okay, the value of I will start at 0. Then it will check the condition. It will say, okay, 0 is less than 5. Yes, it is. It will print this statement. After it will print this statement, it will come here. It will say I plus plus. That means the value of I should be incremented. So value of I will become 1. Then it will check this condition again. It will say 2 is less than 5. Yes, it is. Condition satisfied. It will come here again. Once this is done, then it will do I plus plus again. Now the value of I will become 2. Again, it will come to this statement. It will check 2 is less than 5. Yes, it is. Then it will execute this. So this is how the for loop executes. Basically, this initialization part is executed only for the first time. Then these two parts are executed. This is the condition. After that, the statements are executed. And once the statements are executed, this incremented value or this post incrementation will happen for the for loop. Now let's run this for program for you. You see, now it has printed it 5 times because yeah, I have started I with 0 and value is less than 5. So it will print for 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Now in Go, we can also use for as a while loop. Now let me tell you the syntax for as a while loop. Before that, let me clear it. And let me clear this as well. Now, what is the syntax for the while loop for using for as a while loop? It says for condition and bracket start, bracket close, and your statement here. So this is the syntax for the for loop. Let me show you by just writing a very simple program here for using for as a while loop. So here what I will do is I'll initialize variable I as 0. Then I'll say for I is less than 5, bracket open, bracket close. I will say, let me write again fmt dot printf. Say this is my first for loop as while in go, and then the next line. And inside it, I will increment the value of I by 1. And once this is done, so just to show you, I will do fmt dot println and I'll print the value of I. Now you see, instead of while, I'm using for here. So normally in other language like C Sharp, Java, or any other language, this is being used by while here. Instead of for, we'll be using why. Now what happens is in the first line, it's basically the same syntax as we have here. The only part is initialization we have moved here, condition is here, and the post part is inside the for loop. This is how we are doing it, right? So it's more or less similar to the previous syntax. The only things are we have break them into one part and doing it one by one. So this condition will be set initialized only once, and it will run only once. After that, this and this condition will run. So basically what it will do is it will print this 5 times. And now let me run it for you. You see, okay, I'm sorry, it will not print it 5 times. It will print the final value for the I, because the loop is inside it. And if I want to print the value of I 5 times of what I was saying, I should do it like this. Now, let me show you here. See, this is my first loop of while in go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is another way of writing a for loop in Go. Now, there is a third way that says a simple range in for the loop, right? So we can also use the range for the for loop. Range means, uh, any iterative objects like an array or a slice, right? Any object through which we can iterate, right? So let me give you an example here. First, let me write down the syntax of it for you. Now the syntax for it will be for I, comma, j, initialize it with a range. Now there will be range variable. That means this variable can be an array or a slice or a map. No, not map here, but can be an array or a slice. Then there will be a statement. So this is the syntax for a simple range map, the range in a range in for loop. Now let me show you by writing a program for you here. So inside this program, what I will do is I will create an array called arr_temp, or more specifically in Go, I'll say I'll create a slice. So it's a type string. Now inside this string, say there are 3 names called James, Saints, Javier, and the third value is say Mark. Now this is one slice. Now inside this slice, I want to iterate through this slice, and then we'll want to print the index and the name associated with that index. So what I will do is I'll write the for loop. I'll say for I, comma, j. Now I'll slice it as a range. Now name of the variable. Now I'll say fmt dot println. I'll say nothing I, comma, j. Now what is I and j? I is the index, j is the value associated with this index. These are also known as the iteration variables. Now this j is optional. It doesn't matter whether I'll use it or not. Now let me show you by running it. Let me clear it. Now you see, it says 0 index has James, 1 index has Javier, 2 indexes Mark. So we can use for loop for simple range as well. Now, the third thing is we can use for loop for map as well. So map is a specific data type that is very specific to Go. So it is nothing but an collection of an unordered pair of key value. Now let me show you that part as well. First, let me show you the syntax for map. Now the syntax will be for key, comma, value. It says range and then the map variable. It is almost similar to the previous syntax where we were iterating over a range. It is actually exactly the same. Statement. Now let me write down a very small program to depict this syntax. Now what I will do is I will create a map. So now I'll say map where. Now this map is of map with an index of type integer and a value of type string. Now the index will be say 1, value will be say a. Now index, let me do it like this, 1, 1. It should be 2, 2, value should be b. It should be 3, 3, and value should be c. Now there is a map. This map is created. Now let's iterate for e comma value. Now let me put the range here. Now I want to iterate through the map pair. Now I'll say fmt dot println and I'll say key comma value. So key is the index of the map. Value key basically, okay, I should take it like this. Key is the actual key of the map and value is the value associated with key. So it will print the for loop like this. Let's show it. Let me clear it now. Now let me run it. You see now 22 has B, 33 has C, and now 11 has A. Now see, as I've told you previously, map is a collection of unordered pair. So you see here how in what sequence we are inserting it to map 1 1 2 2 3 3. But when I see the output, it is 2 2 3 3 1 1 because it's an unordered list. If I run it again, now it's a 1 1 2 2 3 3. It's an unordered list. You cannot depict in which order map, map values can be seen in. Now, there is one very interesting thing about a for loop in Go. Now, we can use for loop to write an infinite loop as well, right? Now, for writing the infinite loop in for, we just have to remove all these expression and that's it. Simple. Now, let me show you programmatically. Now, before that, let me show you the syntax for the for infinite for loop. It is for, simple, and statement. Pretty simple, yeah. Now, now let me show you here. I'll say for this, I'll say fmt dot println I am infinite for loop in Go. Now let me show you here. Let me clear the console for you. Make it a big bit for you. You see, it is continuously running because it's an infinite loop. Now let me close it for you. Clear the window. So this is all about the for loop in Go. Now, before we leave, there are two very important concepts that I think are about the for loop is. Now, the for loop is The opening braces for this for loop should always be in the same line in which the post statement exists, like this, or in which the for is. If I will do it like this, Go will give an error. So for me, it while saving, it's automatically doing it like this because of the uh, extensions that I've installed in my Visual Studio Code. So you can refer to the other video of mine where I have shown how you can install or add the extensions for Go in your Visual Studio Code. So, but if that those extension would have been disabled and I would have saved my program like this, so while building the program or while running the program, it would have given an error. Very first thing is this. Now, the other thing is if I am iterating over a map or a slice or an array using the for loop and that map, array, or slice is empty, so for will not give an error because it will automatically take the range and of that array or a slice or a map. It will not give an error. It will just skip it and it will allow the control to flow in. So that is all about the for loops in Go. More sessions to coming moving forward. Thank you very much.